It's the official launch of the Ioniq 6. That's why I'm dressed so formally. However, this is nothing in terms of radical styling compared to this. The design is divisive and polarizing, but with 4 different Ioniq 6 models to choose from, which one will I review? Well, of course, this is the one I've chosen because this is the top spec one. This is the one with all the toys. Okay, let's talk price and range. This machine will set you back a very luxurious $125,000. For that, you get 519 kilometers per charge. Now, if that's not enough, there is a model that costs 30 grand less that actually does more than 600 k's per charge. We'll get to that later, but right now this is the one I want to take home because this is the one with 2 motors, all the toys. Honestly, this one's going to impress you. Let's go for a drive. And we are off, and I will talk about the car's divisive exterior styling later in the video. That should be entertaining, so stick around for that. But right now we can talk about the car's interior styling, and it is spacious. It's really, really big in here. And that's largely because this car is long. It's almost 5 meters long, which is insane because in person, everyone who's seen this car says the same thing. Wow, it's much bigger in person. But because this vehicle runs on the eGMP platform, which is basically a skateboard of batteries and motors they can use in many different models, it means that it has a completely flat floor. So the center console here is set right down, gives you more storage. It also means the space in the back is phenomenal. Seriously, the legroom back there is staggering. Honestly, it blew my mind how much space there is back there, although the rear headroom is a little bit tight. I'm 5'10" and I could almost kiss that ceiling. But despite that lack of headroom, largely thanks to that sloping rear design on the back, passengers get quite a lot of comfort. They get their own vents, they get USB charging, they get seated heats in the back. That's impressive. And they also get the option to move the passenger seat forwards and move the back of the passenger seat forwards if necessary, just to give them even more room. Honestly, Robert Wadlow can fit in the back. Other little tricks that Hyundai have done to make this car feel bigger than it is to move the window controls from the doors to the center console, which means that the door skins can be further inwards. Just gives you more room here in the cabin area. Plus, it means the door handle now runs the entire length of the door, so you can effortlessly grab anywhere in the door and close it without even looking. And as for the interior furnishings, well, it's interesting because Hyundai have put a lot of effort into making sure everything's eco-friendly. The synthetic seats are largely PET recycled plastic, you know, bottles and stuff. Then of course there's these washboard door skins which are painted using eco-friendly plant-based paints. And then there's the carpets themselves. These carpets are largely made from recycled fishing nets. And that's the best thing that's happened to fish since I stopped going to the beach. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, this is the top spec model. This is the limited edition. This is the one with all the gadgetry. And let me list some of the gadgetry that this and the step down, the elite version, comes with. For example, we have here a heads-up display. And it's not just a regular heads-up display. It tells you the speed, sure, but it also tells you navigation information, and it also tells you cars that are in your blind spot, and it can even tell you what radio song you're listening to. But of course, it's all adjustable, so if there's too much information on there, you can go into the menu and just turn off what you don't want to see up there. Keep it clean, keep it simple, or load it with information. The choice is yours. This car also has matrix LED headlights, as you can see from this graphic that I stole from Hyundai. It allows you to turn off part of the headlight as not to blind those in lanes next to you or oncoming traffic. That's smart. Next gadgets in the list for the top spec models are these displays built into the dashboard. How cool is that? That is the most Star Trek thing I have ever seen in a car interior yet. And as you can see, they replace the wing mirrors. However, when reversing, I'm not sure if I'm in love with them because it does make things just a little bit hairier than I'm used to. Oh, it's a bit disorientating. Normally I don't need to have several goes at this. I have been told that I will get used to it in time. I don't know about that. It will take a little getting used to, but the contrast is brilliant. The definition, it's insane. It is sharper than a cat in a suit. This car also has 12-way comfort seats. So if, for example, you're going to be stuck at a charger for say 10-15 minutes, and this car charges stupidly fast, as you will see shortly. If you're going to be stuck there, then this thing will allow you to recline the seat in all different manners to make sure that you are absolutely comfortable. And the seats that I'm sitting on right now are both heated and cooled and adjustable with the display. So you can set the driver's seat to be absolutely toasty, and you can make the passenger seat colder than the other side of my bed. There's another gadget, however, which is really cool. It's called vehicle to load, which basically means you can turn any model of the Ioniq 6 into a giant battery bank. You can go camping by plugging an adapter into the charging port on the side, and then of course you can run all your appliances. You can be an annoying Aucklander when you go camping, taking your coffee machine and your fridge and your big screen TV. That can be you. However, it does cost about $1,000 for that V2L adapter, although these top spec models come with mains power in the back, right under the back seat there. How cool is that? Bottom line is this car has so many gadgets. It's got more toys than a kindergarten, and if I listed every option in this car, well, this video would be longer than a winter in Wellington. So suffice to say, I'm going to put lots of information into the description underneath this video, so click on that. But right now, I need to get out of Auckland. But before I do that, let me try and explain as simply as possible what the differences are between the 4 models of Ioniq 6 that you can buy in New Zealand. And I'll set it to this cool footage from Hyundai with all the cars on the wrong side of the road. Now let's start with the entry-level version, which is priced low enough to get the clean car rebate. It's got a smaller battery with a range of 429 k's, and I reckon this one will do well with businesses and car rental fleets. Next is the long-range version at 95 grand with the same gadgetry, a bit more grunt and a bigger battery that gives it a stupidly long range of 614 k's per charge. I'm looking forward to taking this model on a big Kiwi road trip, so hit the subscribe button as not to miss that video. Next comes the Elite, which is like the business class version with more power and more gadgets, plus it has the same big battery as the long range, so it can do 545 k's per charge and comes in at 105 grand. And the fourth option is the Ioniq 6 Limited, which is the one I'm driving. It has the same battery as the long range but with more power, plus it's all-wheel drive and dripping with gadgets at 125 grand. And if money was no issue, this is the one I'd choose because, as you're about to see, it's a sublime intercity cruiser. Now that we're on the motorway, I can tell you that this thing is stupidly quiet. Like really, I can whisper to you right now, and I'm doing 90 kilometers an hour. That is staggering. It's so quiet in here that I can actually hear my innermost thoughts. Although I'll be curious to see how quiet this vehicle is when we finally get onto some coarse chip roads at 100 k's an hour. As you know, New Zealand's coarse chip roads, they're rough, they're abrasive, they damage potatoes, they're also really, really loud. But now that we're settling in for a bit of a drive, let me turn on the adaptive cruise, set that for a maximum of 100, there we go, and I can see all this on the heads-up display, it's brilliant. I can take my foot off the accelerator. Oh, look at that. Oh, this is magical. This is magical. And now let's turn on the lane keeping assist with this button on the steering wheel here. The thing is, it's driving itself effectively now. I've got to keep my hands on the wheel, but basically it's driving itself. Which means, what do I do? I'm kind of like lost for things to do now. It's like when someone sings you happy birthday in a restaurant. What do you do? Well, the motorway's run out, there's no more cruise control, so I can now talk about efficiency. Now, officially, this car gets 16.9 kilowatt hours per 100k in terms of efficiency. That's very good for a car that is almost, with all the gadgets, this is almost 2.1 tons. However, if you look at the long-range model, which has the same size battery but is two-wheel drive and has a lot less gadgetry, it gets 14.3 kilowatt hours per 100k. I soon got the Ioniq 6 up to 100 on some coarse chip roads to find the overall cabin noise an impressively low 72 decibels, thanks in part to its low drag coefficient and aerodynamic design cues. The front design, the entire car shape, the little flaps on the front that not only channel air through the wheel wells and around the wheels themselves, but then there's that concave section on the sills on each side. And then of course there's the little bits that stick out, not only on the rear tail light, but also on the bumper themselves. You might see them and think, well, what difference do they make? Well, they do. They reduce turbulence as the wind slips off the back of the car. And the next big thing, the controversial thing in terms of styling, where those two double spoilers help to reduce turbulence, help the car slide straight through the air. That's why the long-range version, which has the same battery pack as this, can get 614 k's out of a charge. If you'd like to see me take that on a long distance road trip, which is coming up, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss it. And if you just enjoy these videos in general, if you learn something, get a laugh or two, please press the like button and maybe hit the subscribe button as well to see more content. Keeps me in a job as well. But now, let's go and charge this thing up. And this is another point of interest. This car charges really, really fast. And if I enter on the map the next charging location, the battery will automatically precondition, so it will charge even faster than usual. Well, it took a bit of driving around, but I've got the range down low enough in this electric beast to actually justify charging it now. It took so long because it's so efficient, wouldn't drain down. Well, the thing is, I'm going to use hyper rapid chargers from ChargeNet, and they are incredible machines. And here they are right in front of me. Those two beasts over there, they're hyper rapid chargers. They can deliver 300 kilowatts each, and there's two of them. That's how fast they are. And our ChargeNet's got hundreds of chargers all around New Zealand. So if you've got an electric car, you're going to have a ChargeNet account. And if you haven't, sign up. It's brilliant. But hundreds more chargers are coming in the next 3 or 4 years, like really, and they're going to be really fast chargers as well. And what's even better is that the electricity that feeds into these hyper rapid chargers, in fact all of the DC chargers in New Zealand, comes from Ecotricity. For years, Ecotricity was a carbon zero certified electricity provider. Now that's a big deal, right? Carbon zero certified. Well now, after years of effort, they're climate positive. Imagine that, a power company that is climate positive, like actually making a real difference in the fight against climate change. Not only can you sign up and be part of that good fight, but the electricity is super affordable because it's only from wind, hydro and solar. Nothing else, no dirty coal stations, no dirty gas stations, just clean power. I'm a tightwad and I use them. You can't get a better endorsement than that. Plus you get some green cred and bragging rights because you're actually fighting against climate change. There's no downside to signing up at ecotricity.co.nz. Once you join up, you won't want to go back. But now let's see how fast this car charges. Using one of these chonky 300 kilowatts chargers is pretty straightforward. You can use your mobile app, or if you're old school like me, I use the key fob. Swipe it in front of it, you choose your plug. This uses CCS like most new electric cars. Press the button, grab the plug and plug it in. The car is settled down. It's now chomping away at 150 kilowatts of pure electric power. Clean Ecotricity power, I might add. But what does it mean? In the 15 minutes it took me to grab a coffee, the hyper rapid charger dumped about 250 kilometers of range into the electric tank, which is a great speed, but I know this car can take more because a few days later at the same charger, I reached 171 kilowatts. And when I reviewed the breathtaking Ioniq 5, which runs on the same battery platform, and I'll chuck a link to that video in the description, I hit 210 kilowatts, so it is capable of impressive speeds when it's in the mood. And on the subject of speed, let's check out its 0 to 100 time. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. 239 kilowatts. All-wheel drive. Very, very interesting. I wouldn't say it's neck snapping, but it's no slouch, as you just saw. That's really interesting. I don't want to use this tired Rolls-Royce cliche, but it seems to whoosh you along rather than punch you along, like the RS e-tron GT or the Tesla Model Y Performance. Those are really, really raw, violent cars. This seems much more refined as far as sporty cars go. What a strange combination this is. Such firm suspension, such corner-friendly handling in a car that is designed to go cruising long distance. Gosh, I feel really posh driving this thing because all the sensory feedback you get from the suspension going around corners like this to the power delivery when I put my foot down, it's all so seamless and so smooth and sophisticated. And yet, it corners so well. For a car that looks like the ideal intercity cruiser for the highways, it really loves the country corners. And on that note, it makes me wonder, what's it like in the city itself? Well, for that, I have to take it into Auckland CBD in rush hour. It's a Friday morning in rush hour in Auckland City, but this is a pleasant place to be. Right now, I've got the temperature set just right. I've put my phone onto the wireless charger, so it's charging away happily. I'm going to turn on the heated steering wheel. And of course, let's turn on the heated seats, toast those buttocks. But otherwise, this is just a lovely place to be. Yep, the Ioniq 6 cocooned me from the noise and fumes of all those Victorian-era combustion vehicles surrounding me, but as I approached the tight Ecotricity car park, at almost 5 meters long, the shine of this big highway cruiser was about to tarnish somewhat. Some people at the office don't actually bring their cars in just because it's such a tight space. Can I make this behemoth fit inside? Oh boy. Put the window down so I can see where I'm going. the camera's on. What about that side? Oh, oh, this is not easy in the big city. There's one. Oh, don't tell me I can't even make that. Oh, good Lord. They don't mention this in the brochure. No, that's not going to do it. Oh my word! This is ridiculous! Oh, I can see why some of our Ecotricity team members simply refuse to bring their cars into the office. Some who have big cars like Tesla Model Ys. I've made it. And although this streamliner is definitely more at home on the highways than the car parks, I'm still undecided on that divisive styling. So I got a fresh set of eyes behind the wheel who happens to be someone who thinks the styling of the Ioniq 6 is 600% stunning. This is my boss, Mark. Now he's a bit of a fan of the Ioniq 6, so I'm going to put him behind the wheel and see what he thinks.
I just love this car.
Okay, so you're in love with this car. But why? Point out some things that I might be missing. What is it that you love about this car?
Well, being a slightly older person, I can read the dials on here. I can read how much range it's got left. I can read the time. Another car that I drive, I've just got a software update for larger letters and I cannot read that still. And I'm probably of that age group that might be buying these cars more regularly. So you've got to be able to read things. Admittedly, this is a four-wheel drive compared to my two-wheel drive, but immediately the performance of this is so much better. Handling is stunning, absolutely stunning. Also, it's got buttons. A lot of the cars now have got everything on the dashboard, and my wife in particular gets really frustrated not being able to find things easily on the screen. I am so in love with this car. I want. I want. So I think with all this positive stuff, they've got to give me one. In fact, I don't think they're going to get this car back. They might lose it.
All right, well, that's the driving experience. What about that rear design, the polarizing rear design? What do you reckon?
Initial thoughts were it's too big and obtrusive, but I think it's growing on me. I think it is really cool. It's such a good cruiser on the motorway. If you're going over bumps, it's perhaps a little bit firm, but on the motorway, cornering seems really, really nice on open roads as well. So I just think it's such a good package. It's going to be a car that tests other models in the market.
And there you have it. Now let's wrap up this review with some last-minute important info on rear seat width and ISOFIX points, driver's seat height, warranty information, braked towing limits, and of course boot space, which is surprisingly long with the seats down, and frunk space too. And lastly, time for a new segment, a spud score out of 100 potato points, starting with performance, which is very good with its dual motors, achieving 8 out of 10 points, followed by handling, and this thing just loves the corners, grabbing 8 points. Next up is comfort, and although the legroom is the best I've ever seen, that firm suspension keeps the score at 6. As for efficiency, well, you've seen it. This thing is class leading, getting a well-deserved 9 out of 10. How about gadgetry? Well, those digital mirrors are freaking cool, as is the onboard power and dual displays and matrix beam headlights, but it still uses wired Android and Apple, so 9 out of 10, which is almost perfect. Value is next, and while feature-filled, the limited model is certainly not cheap at 125 grand, so I'm giving it 6 out of 10 there. Charging speed, however, gets 10 out of 10. I mean, 350 kilowatts maximum charging is breathtaking for a passenger car in 2023. Well done, Hyundai. Next up is style, and this is polarizing, so take my opinion with a grain of sodium chloride. I'm giving it 7 because, well, it's brilliantly bold, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. But is it fit for its intended purpose? As an intercity/long-range cruiser, absolutely. But on some bumpy Kiwi roads, some might prefer the softer suspension of the Ioniq 5, so I'm giving it 7 out of 10. And lastly, and most importantly, comes the potato storage capacity, or PSC, which has just set a new record at 82. So 10 out of 10 for PSC, I am impressed. This brings the total spud score to an excellent 80 potato points, so hats off to Hyundai. Overall, the Ioniq 6 is an efficient cruiser with loads of tech, a real 21st century electric car.